Hey guys, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be making this nightstand out of a broken skateboard, some maple, and some oak. So first I started by ripping the skateboard into strips, sanding off the finish, gluing them together, and then putting them in clamps and setting them aside to dry. Here I'm gluing two thin pieces of maple together, and I'll use that for the drawer fronts. I'll put clamps on it and set it aside. So I decided to use bow tie joints for the top of the nightstand, and I'm inlaying some skateboard wood, and first I cut it out on the bandsaw here. So after the blade broke, I had to change my pants and the old blade, put in a new blade, and finish cutting them out. Then I took it to the vise and cleaned it up with a file. Next I used a straight bit in my router and I got pretty close to the scribe line, but not directly on it, and then I worked my way back to the line with a chisel. And I'm not the best with hand tools, but it came out pretty good, and some of the gaps weren't that noticeable after I sanded it. I used box joints as the joinery, and using my sled on the table saw, I make the cheek cuts, and then I take it to the bandsaw to remove the material in between the cuts. And even though this was easier, the cuts came out a little uneven, so I decided to use the table saw and take multiple passes to get the material off, and that came out a lot cleaner. And that you could see I did here, just using my sled. Since I freehanded the cuts making the box joints, some of them were too tight and some of them were too loose, so I had to use a lot of clamps and a little bit of hammering to get them all to fit, but it worked. So while that dried, I worked on the legs, and I cut them to 13 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 1.5 inches thick. And on the miter saw, I cut them to about 4 degrees to get the angle. I'm using sliding dovetails to hold the leg assembly together, and first with a straight bit, I make a relief cut, and then I switch it out for the dovetail bit. And you should always remember to cut the pins first, that's the groove, because you can't change the thickness of the bit, but you could change the thickness of the pins, and that's the part that slides into the groove. Next I take a few thin passes on the table saw to make a dado in some of the parts of the leg assembly, and that's to hold the top section onto the leg assembly, and I'll show you how that goes together in a later shot. So I made these L bracket kind of things, and those fit into the groove, and then I screw them on from underneath into the top piece, and those hold on the leg assembly. And I screwed 4 of these in. Next I worked on the drawer, and that was pretty simple. I just put a dado in the bottom, and then I made a tongue and groove for the back and a sliding dovetail for the front. And you can see the sliding dovetail here, and then the tongue and groove for the back piece. Off camera I made a draw pull out of the skateboard wood I glued up in the beginning of the video. Once the drawer was assembled, I sanded up to 220 grit and then put a Minwax wood finish on it, something really simple. I always love incorporating broken skateboards into my projects because it gives a modern feel to them, but it also gives a second life to something that would have just been thrown out. It turned out not 100% perfect, but I'm fine with that because I had a good time building it and it's going to serve me well. So if you guys liked it, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.